Okay, YouTube, this is Jason. Back with my first video since the new consoles have launched. My last video was quite a few months ago, actually. I've been really busy back to school. I don't know if I mentioned that to you guys, but I went back to college. I never finished, so for my job and everything, it's just kind of important that I do. So this was my first semester back. In addition to working about 45 to 50 hours a week at my day job, I was able to complete 9 hours. So that much closer. Next semester won't be that bad, but it was pretty cool after being out of school for a while to get back in it. But yeah, lots happened this year in gaming. There was a lot of interesting releases, and of course, you know, we had the new consoles. I mentioned in a previous video that I planned on buying both, and I did. So as you can see, here's my current setup with the PS4 and the Xbox One down there. I don't know if this is how I'm going to leave it. The Wii U has been moved to my other room. We have another family game room upstairs with a big 73-inch TV that, you know, it's fun when we have people over. Everyone can play, you know, different, you know, Wii U games, you know, something that's a little more conducive to large groups and parties and whatnot. But not that we entertain too much, but it's cool to have it. And my wife, when she does come up here to play, she usually doesn't squeeze into my tiny little room here. She usually, you know, wants to sit on that couch and play. So anyway, I'll get right to it. What has this generation... What does this new generation mean, basically? What do we have to look forward to? Well, you know, with the Xbox 360 and let me just go over here. The PS3 is on its own HD monitor here. You know, we had a lot. It was a big, to me, it was a big jump from the PS2 and the regular Xbox. But in terms of this generation, I don't think we're going to see that big, huge gap that we saw with previous generations. I kind of liken this, you know, to something like GameCube to Wii. Not huge, but there's a lot more potential, a lot of overall improvements. I wanted to just make this video because I want to address something that, you know, I didn't do unboxings. You know, there was no point. Everyone, you know about these systems. You don't need my channel, my small little YouTube channel to learn about them. But I wanted to, you know, express my opinion about the differences between the two when I think about one over the other. The differences in terms of architecture are so subtle. You know, I don't think we're going to see that big of a difference in games at all. I don't think that actually there is any difference, you know, that we're going to see. I think developers are going to have just as much ease developing games for one over the other. What this generation really comes down to with, you know, all three consoles, with PlayStation, Nintendo, and of course Microsoft, Xbox One, what you're really coming down to is exclusives and multimedia functionality. With the PlayStation 4, you have multimedia functionality. It does have a camera. I'll just never in a million years buy it. I don't need it. Don't want it. But I think you have a better size, a better overall deliberate system for playing games than the hulking Xbox One. You know, it's a big system. It reminds me of something like from high-end late 70s, early 80s living room multimedia kind of material. It's really big and intimidating. And I was very skeptical of it at first and actually thought about not purchasing it. You know, after I'd already reserved it and everything, I thought about canceling. Friends of mine talked me into it, and you know, overall I'm glad I did, because the camera, the Kinect actually works much better than I thought it would. I don't use it. I don't have any games that really utilize it or anything, and I won't do that for games. But as far as multimedia functionality, I think the Xbox One is totally the way to go. If this center right here, if this is your familiar scene in like your main living room, go right ahead. But keep in mind, guys, this isn't my living room. This is my game room. So I don't have a cable box in here. I don't have, you know, the satellite doesn't come in here. So I use this room only for playing games. So the multimedia functionality then of the Xbox is really not utilized at all. It is neat though, and I might use it in the future. So it's a nice option. It's an expensive option, but it's a definitely nice option. So, you know, after that point. You know, I mean, you're going to be able to, you can watch Netflix on both. You can watch Hulu on both. And the PS4 has a great, navigation pane. I mean, I think basically what it's going to come down to is just, the content. What games do you like? If you're more into the God of War and those kind of franchises and the Uncharted series so far is only limited to Sony, you're going to have to go with the PS4. But if you like Gears of War and Halo and all that, well, you got to go with the Xbox. It really comes down to that. And I want to just go ahead and say this, and I don't mean it to sound arrogant, but it is the truth. If you're just loyal, blindly loyal, what we call fanboys, to one over the other, and you either don't own both or don't have accessibility to play both, and especially in a side-by-side comparison, your opinion that one is just trash over the other is garbage. I mean, it doesn't matter. It's a bullshit opinion. Get over yourself and get over your blind loyalty, because both companies have their faults. People claim that PlayStation, Sony doesn't know what they're doing in the gaming industry. Sony's been in the gaming industry, much longer than Microsoft. They've been around for a very long time, making games for, developing games for, regular Nintendo and Super Nintendo and Sega. They've been around for a very long time. They've been in the gaming industry for a long while. So Sony knows what they're doing. Microsoft, if the Xbox wasn't lucrative and if they didn't feel that this was important, they wouldn't do it. They have so many other things they could be doing that would generate, tons of profit, that, Microsoft is committed to this project as well. And yeah, they've both made errors. I mean, in the past, I think it was BS that, even though I wasn't even playing games in that generation, that Microsoft's quickly abandoned the regular Xbox, and Sony is known for, keeping systems around for a long while. I don't think Microsoft's going to do that this time. I think they learned their lesson. I think they see a lot of profitability still in the 360, and I think they're going to continue to support it for a while. So really, it's going to come down to exclusives and then the functionality. That's really it. And again, anything else, any other emotions that you have or bitterness, or get over it, because all machines, any product is going to have, problems. Sony gave us free online for how many years? A decade, and Microsoft, you always had to pay. Now people are like, oh, it's bullshit, you have to pay for PlayStation Plus. I just don't get a lot of these arguments, but it's just because most of these complaints are from ignorant people, and, it's nothing wrong with not being able to buy both. It's a big purchase, it's expensive, and I don't expect people to do that, but you need to sit and play both before you have an opinion. So that, enough said about that. I'm going to leave it at that. What I can say though, so far, if I had to rate the two on system design, I would have to give it to the PS4. I mean, look how small it is. That's a 3DS first generation for comparison. I mean, it's just not taking a lot of room. It looks good. As opposed to the Xbox, it looks like, kind of a step back in design. It's so big and menacing. It's like having a computer on its side. So system design overall, I give to the PlayStation, also because the PS4 controller is just great. And I'm not going to go over this too much either, because there's a million videos over this controller. People really like it, and so do I. It feels good. I miss the overall design, but they kind of kept it real. It's still kind of a tribute to it. Very familiar, and it's just got a great feel. It's a wonderful controller. Now, taking a look at the Xbox, when I got it out of the box, I was like, Microsoft really cheaped out. First off, I don't appreciate the fact that that they didn't give you a battery pack, with the day one launch. That just really, really upset me. But overall, the controller feels great, and the bumpers, having the little vibrators in there, especially with games like Forza, very nice touch. So the more I've played with this controller, the more I like it. But I still have to give it to PlayStation for just, with that extra little area here. Right now, maybe not so much, but I think that's basically like another infinite controller up there. So I really, really dig this design. I also just like the way everything's set up and the way it feels. So have to give it to Sony on overall system design so far, but we all know how that goes. In 3 years, there's going to be another, a Slim or whatever. So, you only put too much into that. As far as exclusives, wow, let me talk about that briefly as well. The PlayStation exclusives, Knack and Killzone, are really it in terms, and then there's some, Resogun, which is included as kind of like an arcade game. Killzone I was very disappointed in. While a game looks pretty, a lot of games look pretty. I don't really think there's anything on it that's that much more impressive over the Killzone series on PS3, to be honest. And the gameplay and the story is just weak. And there's this the part that really, really irritates me is I guess they tried to make the game a little more like Crysis and whatnot. And there's a part, like, when you look down, you can see your feet, and it looks like a glitch. It looks so bad that it looks like the game is glitching. And that was one of the things that really just kind of ruined it for me up front. And then as I got to playing it, I'm just like, this is really boring. So I was really, really disappointed in Killzone. I would say actually to pass on it, if you haven't bought a game already. Knack, on the other hand, which is a game that's getting just kind of like mixed reviews. People either really like it or they hate it. I don't understand the hate. The game is very simple, but it's a pretty game. And for what it is, for a Christmas morning game, it's perfect. And that's what it's supposed to be. It's a launch game. I do feel that at $59.99 it's overpriced, but I think if you can find it as a pack-in, or if it was $40, it would be completely appropriate. I really enjoy the game. It's simple. It has just an appropriate level of challenge to where, if you don't get a checkpoint, you got to start a whole area over again. And it kind of reminds me of old school gaming, just with modern graphics. And it is simple, but it's not trying to reinvent the wheel. It's supposed to be accessible to everyone and be kind of a game that people could sit around and watch someone play too. The story's not overly complicated or anything, but I don't agree with the negative reviews that it got, and I don't agree with anyone that's praising Killzone. So, that being said, moving on to the actual best, the exclusive between the two consoles is Forza, which is playing in the background. Forza 5 is fantastic, and I absolutely love the game. Is it completely next gen? It's a prettier game, but I don't think it's anything that we haven't seen with, like Gran Turismo or something. I think that they could have made a very good, I think they could have made this game and ported it to Xbox 360 with just slow resolution. I think the Xbox 360 could definitely handle it, but being what it is, I mean, the physics behind, as far as like that cockpit view, behind the driver wheel, I mean, they just nailed it with this game. And the hate that the game's getting is over, I think a lot of it has to do with the microtransactions and the fact that there's DLC from day one. So that brings me to my next issue, my next topic, the price of games and DLC in general. Guys, get over paying $59.99 for games. It's done with. That's not going to be the cost anymore. That's going to be like the bare bones. The real cost of games now for what you want is $79.99. They just haven't said it, but that's what it is, because basically, if you buy a game, a big edition with all the DLC, season passes, and everything, that's about what you're spending, about $80, if not more. You can't complain about that too much, because in all the years, the cost of games have not increased. I mean, they've been $59.99. Hell, in the previous generations, I remember Super Nintendo games and Atari Jaguar games being $69.99. That's ridiculous when you count in inflation. So the cost of games it has to rise. And a lot of gamers are upset about, not paying full price. About the used game market and what this is all doing to the used games, because you can't carry on you can't carry over the DLC that you're forced to buy. I have to say, get over that as well. And in another way, I really don't care about those opinions of the gamers like that only buy used games and only want to buy games when they're cheap, because you're a part of the problem. If you would just, support the games you really like and buy them, at launch, and pay full price for the games you really like, and only buy the used games that you're trying to collect or you're curious about, maybe games could stabilize and remain low. But that's the thing, is the fact that there's this whole other market that doesn't make the developers or publishers any more money. Only the stores like GameStop and Best Buy, or whatever, where these little this used game economy exists, that doesn't benefit anyone but those retailers. You're a part of the problem by buying those games in lieu of purchasing new. So, you have no right to complain about the cost of games. And I'm talking directly to those people that think that $59.99 is too much, and that think that DLC is too much. You are the reason games are expensive. If you only buy used games, or you only buy your games on the cheap, that's a problem. I'm not saying that you shouldn't do that. I think, especially like if, a game comes out and, it's like, this is a game that's going to be $30 in a few months. It's just, it might be good, but I know it's going to be $30. You want to wait on that one? Fine. As long as you've got another game that you're really excited about, that you paid full price for, or that you reserve, as long as you're in that loop and you're constantly supporting it. But if you only buy used games, you only want to buy cheap games, and you constantly bitch and moan about the price of games, you're a part of the problem. You are the problem. So these companies that eventually this will happen, that there will be no more used games, you know, this wasn't a bad idea. And overall, it could be, we could be adopting more of the free to play model where all games are free and everything's microtransactions. So, you know, I kind of, in a way, I'm a collector, and this isn't even all my collection, guys, but I'm just pointing this out because I don't want to see physical games disappear, but it's going to happen. These consoles are not going to be here anymore. Pretty soon it's going to be that right there. It's going to be a TV with everything built in, and it's just going to be cloud streaming. That's the way it's going to be. That's the future. So you don't have to like it, but you just kind of have to accept it. And this might be the last console generation. So, you know, enjoy yourselves and play games and collect. I mean, I think it's very convenient, you know, for example, if there's a game you want to play that you can just go right online, and you can, if your friend's got Call of Duty and you didn't, you can download it. You're going to pay full price for it, but it's convenient, you know. If you're not a big fan of Call of Duty, or if you want to play the campaign and trade it in, that's not a problem either. But just don't bitch that that the game's too expensive, or that you can't carry on your DLC or whatever with it, because, you know, it's all about for you to experience anyway. So that's my piece on that. Some of you are going to really, really disagree with me on it, but I, to be honest, I mean, it really is, that's my heartfelt opinion on the subject. I think about it from the business side, as a collector, as someone who absolutely loves games and has played games from every generation, you know. So I can have this opinion. It's valid. You know, if you've only been in the game, you know, playing games for 5 years or whatnot, and your parents have bought the majority of your games, and you're pissed off because games are expensive. Games have always been expensive. They've always been expensive. So you're not special there. All right, moving on. So to wrap this up, my overall opinion about the consoles, like I said, I don't think one's better than the other at this point. It's all about preference. Do you need both? Absolutely not. So I think the best thing to do at this time would be to make a decision on which one really kind of suits you more. Pick up that system and support it, because I've got several games for PlayStation 4 that are not exclusive, and my friend has an Xbox and he has those same games. We can't play each other, you know. So think about it. Just make a well-informed decision, though. If you're just blindly following one over the other, that's stupid. You know, if it's a pocketbook issue, you get a lot more with the PS4 for the price. I believe that. So go with the PS4. But if you like the exclusives, it might be worth it for the extra $100. You know, and again, you know, if it's about selling it to your parents or to your wife or to, you know, your brother or sister, whoever's going to help you contribute to buying this thing, you know, point out that there's a lot of functionality with the Xbox that would be cool to have in the house. You know, you can use that as a selling point. But at this point, I would just pick one over the other, unless, you know, you can afford to purchase both. But if it's one or the other, make a well-informed decision, pick one, and support it for a year or two. They're going to be cheaper. You know, that's the way things always go. And I'm going to close this with kind of a surprising announcement, you know. I'm going to go ahead and just say the best next generation game, the best game I've seen so far, the best absolute, and probably, in my opinion, the only true next generation game goes to the underdog, the Wii U, with Super Mario 3D World. This game smokes any exclusive for either the PS4 or the Xbox One. I'm not even the hugest Mario fan, or of the newer Marios anyway, not since Mario 64, but in terms of overall game design, in terms of doing what Nintendo does best and what they knew the Wii U can do, does it utilize all the functionality of the Wii U? Absolutely not. But just overall game design, it's outside the box, and that's what the next generation's about. The game looks beautiful, plays beautifully, it's a lot of fun, and you know, that just goes to show that the Wii U is not out. And so all of you are out there like, oh, Nintendo sucks. I was kind of one of you for a little bit, but because I had the Wii U and I was a little disappointed. But if Nintendo continues to do this, if they do this, if they continue to pump out the quality with the new Mario Kart, with the new Smash Brothers, and a new Zelda, you've got a really big contender there, and it's also a much lower cost option than either one of these systems. So for those of you that like Nintendo and just were kind of disappointed with the initial launch of the Wii U, let me tell you something, they just redeemed themselves, you know. So anyway, guys, this video is all about opinion. So please post comments below, even if you want to blast me for things I've said, if you just completely disagree. But let me know, you know, post video responses, whatever. Just keep watching, most importantly. Later.